It's just like meeting old friends again. I love it.
I know, right?
And it doesn't look like Marco has moved since last I saw you. You're sitting in front of your drums still.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of kept waiting for this moment. I'm free. I'm free.
It's been that kind of year.
All right.
So I get the feeling that you guys have done nothing but make more music since I last spoke to you in July, and you got a new album coming out. When is it? In December? Yeah, December 4th.
December 4th.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. I gave it a listen. It sounds like you've been very busy. So tell me what you've been doing, man.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? It's basically, well, during the quarantine, it's kind of fun working on music. That's really all it is. But there's also like the promo factor. I remember, like, when we kind of had pretty much the second album finished, there was like just this, you have to kind of breathe out and kind of digest the whole thing, and then concentrate on doing like some videos and promo material and stuff. So, but we are working already on the next one.
Are you really? I get the feeling this is the way it's going to be for a while. We're just going to be deluged with amazing amounts of new music. But the great thing is, I haven't heard anything horrible yet from anybody. It's like good stuff is coming out all the time. So
that's cool. Yeah.
And it's all different kinds of music. I mean, I've been talking to hip hop artists, country artists, prog rock. I mean, you name it, it's coming out. So there's something for everybody.
Excellent.
So,
all right,
so the album is just called 2, right?
That's right.
Now, I think when we spoke last, you were talking about trying to keep things concise and kind of reined in from the typical prog rock tropes that have gone on before you. This one seems a little longer, and it sounds like you're stretching out a little bit. Was that the thought process behind it?
Yeah, I would say so. Kind of like last time, what we did here was not really conscious of that goal. Like, we didn't make the first record and then say like, okay, this is what we have to do now.
Right.
It was a very seamless transition. I mean, we kind of broke ground on this record while we were still finishing up mixes for the first one. And It wasn't even that it was like a deliberate decision. It's just that Marco and I, as individuals, continue to write at our own pace anyway. And if you go back to April and May, that was kind of like the heart of the lockdown period here in the US. We were finalizing mixes and mastering for the first record, basically publicly launching McStine and Minnemann, as a band. And then in the background, writing new material. So we kind of started in April and May. And then I guess at some point, heading into the summertime, I think that's where we realized that we were both amassing quite a bit of material that we were sending back and forth.
Right.
And even how this album turned out is not what I thought it was going to be based on where we started. I had this idea that our follow-up would probably kind of follow not exactly what we had just done, because we have no interest in just kind of stamping out a carbon copy, but I thought it was going to be more along the lines of what Van Halen 2 is to the first album, where it's like they defined a palette with the first one, and then they followed up immediately with the second one. That's very closely linked, right?
Yes.
But what happened as we went along, it seemed we started getting more and more ambitious ideas to each other. And even, I would say, really surprising each other with the things that we were sending back and forth. And then suddenly when we looked at everything we had, it was like, wow, what is this album going to be? And what it's turned into is something that I think we're both very, of course, proud of, but also very surprised by ourselves. Like, how did we get here so quickly? And for that, I can't wait to hear what people hear when they get it, because I really do think that it's not the logical next step that I thought it was going to be. We've kind of like gone a little bit further into the future than I anticipated. So that's the way I see it.
That's where we want to be, in the future somewhere, I think. So that's a good thing. And I'm curious, because this comes so quickly after the previous album. So you must have been getting feedback from fans while you were making this album on the previous album. Did that have any impact on what you were doing creatively?
Well, creatively, I would say yes and no. Not like from the writing force, because that's, how Randy put it out. Actually, we kind of individually write songs at our own pace anyhow,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it is obviously a great vitamin boost, when you hear like, all this great feedback and you see like there's a following
Right.
establishing. And yes, in the back of our minds, I'm sure I can speak for Randy here as well. You kind of think like, cool, I wonder, what they think, are they pleased with
Yeah.
the new material, or what can we do to surprise people, right? So obviously I keep that in mind when we write like, songs like Old Sparky or The Flame. You think like, okay, I wonder what they think, right? But so it is definitely kind of a good energy boost, to get such a good feedback. And I really kind of want to point out, like, the latest surprise was we launched another vinyl release, and
Wow.
the
That's good
first,
news.
yeah, it is good news. So the first vinyl, we did like a limited run of 100 copies, and they sold within, I think, 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Now we released actually McStine and Minnemann 2, again, this time numbered, but also limited to 100 copies, and we thought it would actually kind of go probably in a little less than 3 months.
Right.
It's almost sold out in 2 days, which is ridiculous. So there are
Yes, it
literally
is.
20 copies left or something like that. And so, yeah, we're surprised and humbled, that there's like, such good response, from our followers, right? So
Are you going to repress?
that's a good question. We shouldn't, because it's a limited, it's a limited edition. Maybe
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
double LP or something for touring purposes. One
Right,
and two,
right.
the gatefold. So I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
That's the way it works these days. Yeah.
But
And you mentioned for touring purposes, so I assume you haven't played out anywhere since I last spoke to you, right?
No, not at
No.
all.
yeah,
Oh man, it's got to be crazy.
Well, it is, I mean, whenever somebody asks me about just what the effect of the pandemic has been, I'm always wanting to choose my words carefully, because it's a devastating thing, as we all know, and the toll that this has had on all of us is immeasurable. But it has impacted some people more than others. There's a range here. So when I say that there's a silver lining to this, it's not to minimize the disastrous effect of it. But what I can say for me personally and for our duo here is I think it's very likely to say that the amount of acceleration that we've been able to have in our collaboration and our friendship, in our creativity, I can't imagine it having happened in any other situation, right, just because of what our individual lives typically would be. One of us would be on tour right now doing something, or getting pulled in different directions by necessity. And because that's been, taken away from us by force, basically, it's given us this opportunity to really drill into our partnership here. And I know that when we announced that we had a second record on the way, a lot of the fan response was kind of like, wow, I can't believe you guys are already doing it. But it's kind of an old school mentality. Bands used to do more of this thing, put out 2 records in a year and tour 200 dates or whatever. So it is a short amount of time, but the amount of time that we've put into this record has been incredibly intense. I mean, this is probably the hardest I've ever worked on a piece like in a short period of time in my life, because I've just been living this music for months now.
I think it sounds like it when you listen to the album. You can hear that there's a lot in there, and there's a lot of stuff happening. And the two of you, you must be able to work together like this pretty easily, I assume, because if you couldn't, there would be nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I would say like we have really like an equal respect for each other musically, and we also have this great chemistry. So we come to results pretty quickly when we start writing and sending the things forth and back. There's never really been a moment or something where, you know, Randy sent me something back and I said like, oh, that kind of sucks. Let's do it again. Something,
Right.
you know, it never happened.
Give me time.
So the album starts out with a song called Love Before Algorithms, and then there's another one further in called Love After Algorithms. So that seems to be a good starting point to talk about the record. What's going on with you guys and algorithms?
This will be an exercise in so what we're talking about here is like 35 seconds worth of music, and I'm going to stretch this for minutes. Algorithms are actually something that have kind of obsessed me a little bit for a couple of years now. The concern over social media and all of the sort of tech platforms that we've more or less kind of given into and given our lives over to, and how it kind of governs a lot of how we behave and how we move things forward in the world. And it's just, I don't know why, but it's been of something of very big interest to me for a while. The two pieces that you're talking about, you know, they don't really go deep into that particular thing. They're almost like little jingles or just little like mantras in a way. But I've had this line, Love Before Algorithms, showed us how to break the system down for a long time. And it's something that I constantly think about, especially now, because especially here in the US, I mean, the political climate and the social climate being so chaotic, and just day after day, you get this pulling apart at the fabric of who we are as a society. Algorithmic systems are basically driving this behavior, whether we realize it or not. You know, you going on Facebook, me going on Facebook, what this has done is given us multiple realities.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Everybody has their own reality, and they think everybody else sees the same thing, but it's
they don't.
Close.
And they don't. And this is the sooner people realize this, and I think this message is starting to get out because there's movies like The Social Dilemma, and a lot more people are being vocal about it. But you essentially have 10 years of human evolution now being fed this diet of algorithmic systems and learning and machine-based learning. And it's gotten us to a place where if we look at a table in front of us, you know, one of us might not even call it a table anymore. Like, so that is something I think about a lot, and is a big concern to me. And so its involvement on this album, it seemed in some weird way like it could almost, this isn't a concept record, but it felt like a theme that was kind of an overarching thing to what these songs are, and the different kind of parallels of my life and Marco's life, because there's a lot of autobiographical and very vulnerable material on this record. Right. And it just to me, it seemed to kind of sum up something that I almost can't really describe, but it very much kind of does tie through the whole record in some way.
Now, I think probably the most surprising track that I felt I wasn't expecting was Girls at the Gig.
Yeah, why is that? I'm curious to know.
Well, it almost has like some dialogue going through it, and it tells a story, and well, there's a great little reference to Michael Schenker, so that's always a nice thing. But but in the meantime, I was just like, you know, whoa, you know, it's pretty. Who wrote? Which one of you guys wrote that one?
I wrote that one, and I don't know. I guess I would describe that as like, it's like an it's kind of like an anti-hero story, you know. Right. It's like an anti-rock star kind of confession, really. It's 100, it's like 99% true to my life.
Well, there's a line there, never got no action on the road. So.
Exactly. No, I mean, that, I actually, when I wrote that, I kind of wondered to myself, can I allow myself to put this out there? Because it is so revealing and so vulnerable, because I think as a rock musician in particular, you know, we grow up with the mythos of our heroes, of Zeppelin, and the conquests of being a rock god, right? And that song is basically like me just putting all the cards on the table and saying, I'm not that guy. Yeah. It's almost like I'm saying I want to be that guy, but I can never be that guy, and this is why. And you know, so that's kind of the story behind that song. And in juxtaposition to one of Marco's songs, which is called Quarantine Sex Slave.
Yes, that was another one I was going to touch on.
That's the perfect segue, because that song is almost like like a parallel or opposite world to mine, and that's like Marco's version. It's like the other side of the coin. What happens when you actually meet a girl at the gig, right? Yep. So, and Marco, you know, that's you.
Hey, you, I'm new in town. God, I love your accent. If I stay for a beer with you, what say you? Yeah, why not? Sure. Oh dear, my band just left. I could drive you home now, if that's cool with you. I told you.
Yeah, it is, and this is kind of really cool. And Randy and I, we had like, you know, great phone talks over the phone or texts sometimes, you know, and especially like there was like, you know, this one moment which was really cool where I think we both had like a few wines or something like that. We finished the recording session and we started texting exactly about the topic, and Randy started writing girls at the gig. And basically also confessed exactly, or what confessed, so kind of, you know, laid it out in what he just kind of told. And here's me, and I kind of wrote something back. It's like, yeah, and I'm the rock and roll whore who's like on the road and being single and having fun, you know, whenever I can have fun. Right. But there is exactly also a flip side of the coin. And that was like, you know, most of the songs that I wrote for this album are also autobiographical and kind of painful a little bit, because I did meet someone on the road who I fell in love with, and we lived together and we quarantined together, and we had a great time. And after a while it fell apart, you know, because she moved back to Houston, and then there were like some family turmoils actually going on with her and stuff, and we never met again. But it was painful. But for me, it kind of, you know, I felt like writing a story about how it is, how the social life can establish, how can you live together with someone who you just meet in a space, in one house, being quarantined together. Yeah. You know, this kind of stuff. And there is a psychology behind it. It's so I basically, none of the songs I wrote were not even remotely like sobbing love songs or something like that. Not at all. It's really more about, you know, the social life, and also the bond you can form, and also the psychology about like how to make things work, you know, or how the psychology works. And obviously there's like a lot of tongue-in-cheek references there. Obviously Quarantine Sex Slave, that's just a fun real title. It was the thing where we were talking about it and laughed about this, you know, hey, I'm gonna be a quarantine sex slave. It was just a you know, just a fun line that I kind of used, you know. And in the song it describes, you know, how we met, and you know, and it takes you on a journey, basically, literally. Kind of, it's that whole song is literally a meeting, a journey, and a breakup. So yeah, and I have to kind of really say, it's these songs, especially like the Quarantine Sex Slave song, or The Flame, or also The Horse Is Dead, you know, those songs came out so all of a sudden they just poured out of me, you know. I had all of a sudden so much to say, not only lyrically but also like stylistically. I wanted to basically write a film score to the lyrics. I had everything, you know, mapped out visually and conceptually. And I have to really kind of, you know, thank this person, you know, Donya, you know, for being part of my life, because without her presence, I would have never written those songs.
Very cool. And you mentioned stylistically, musically, I'd written the word Rush next to that song because it reminded me of the band Rush. And I don't know if that's something
you mean Quarantine Sex Slave?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they would ever have this title.
No, I don't think so either. But there was something about the especially the rhythm behind it, and just the vibe of the thing. And it sounded like Neil Peart could have been sitting next to you, possibly. I don't know.
Cool. I take this as a compliment. I like Rush. We both do. We have Alex Lifeson on this record as well. He plays a little guest role on. Yeah, he's on the song "The Horse Is Dead."
Oh, right. That's like the last tune, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And how'd you rope him into that?
Well, Alex is a dear friend of mine. We've been collaborating now for 3 or 4 years, and he gave me a lot of material, and this was just like a soundscape he delivered from with like a Fernandez guitar with sustainers, and it sounded hauntingly beautiful. And I used it basically as a landscape on that very song because it's such a dark piece of music, and so it fit perfectly. And he was delighted to be part of it, so he just wrote me back about it, and yeah. That's okay.
And did you converse with him about it like we are now? You're just like Zooming or emailing and sending files back and forth?
Exactly. He's always very keen on working on something. And he has a lot of things to do as well with his family and stuff like that. He's not really like what I say, like, he deserves his time off as well, or working at his pace.
Yeah.
And so but it's pretty much similar when I worked with Alex, what I did with Randy right now. And I think in the future we'll have more collaborations with him.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting time because we just lost Eddie Van Halen. So he's no longer with us, and Rush is no longer an entity anymore. So I guess people have to kind of rethink about how they're going to work and who they're going to work with and what they're going to do with themselves. So,
true.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Yeah.
And you guys must look at it as maybe an opportunity to go, hey, I can work with Alex Lifeson. I can, what's Michael Anthony doing today?
Right. But I tell you what, the thing is, see, I'm a fairly busy studio musician. I get like a lot. I have my home studio here with like 2 mic'd up drum kits and guitars and the whole setup. Yeah. And I get a lot of studio sessions, and I love that. It's my life, isn't it? Other people go to work. I love just playing and recording.
Sure.
But the more you grow and the more experience you have, the less of an importance does it become to work with a certain name. It's always pretty much the musicality. Yeah. So it does not really matter if you work with I don't know, Mike Smith or Mick Jagger. It doesn't matter.
Right, yeah.
If Mike Smith delivers actually the right ingredients that are good for the song, the public will follow, and our followers will actually appreciate that. The followers, over the years, no matter who's guesting on the records, the sales don't really change in favor of a name. The sales change in favor of how the music is brought across.
That's a good thing, I guess, isn't it? It's kind of reassuring in a way.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to touch on Dum Dum as well, the track, because that's kind of a very overtly political song, which
sure.
And is that one yours?
It is, yeah. That's the kind of song that only happens at like 1 a.m. There was a week it was the first week of August actually, where I just kind of had the apartment to myself. My wife was away for the week at her parents, and I wanted to specifically get back to the acoustic guitar and just write some songs, because every once in a while as a writer, I need to just kind of shake up my process a little bit. And there's, for me personally, something about going back to the acoustic guitar and voice that gets you to, focus on the core of a song, because you have nothing else to pad it out with. So I had written several songs that week, of which we'll probably put on the next record that we do. But Dum Dum was something that was like a late night, politically fueled kind of, almost throwing my hands up in the air at whatever this time is that we're living through. And kind of like what I was talking about, like a mantra, talking without listening is the symptom of a greater deficiency. Killing conversations across the nation with a lack of proficiency. It was just like this frustration that nobody can talk to each other anymore in a civil way, without accelerating things to the extreme polarities on both sides of an issue. And I'm like a total centrist on so many things. You know, I don't like that kind of radical pulling apart of things. And, you know, one can be slightly to the left or slightly to the right of an issue, but as the summer was progressing with protests and just all sorts of craziness, it seemed like there wasn't anything left in America in particular that was a subject that could be met in the middle. Everything was like, you have to be way on this side or way on that side.
Right.
So that song was kind of like a humorous take on what I was feeling. And I had this idea of, once that line came and then the chorus, kind of having like a fake sing-along, almost like a give peace a chance kind of thing, but, but the reverse of it, you know, where everybody's just kind of like sloppy drunk and clapping on the wrong beat and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just stayed up here in my living room here and just like, you know, from the outside, if anybody heard what I was doing, they would think I had gone crazy, making these silly voices and stuff. But I had a blast, and I sent it to Marco, and that's actually one of those songs where when Marco responded to me positively about it, I knew that we were getting deeper into our friendship, into our collaboration, because that is not something that you send to just anyone.
No.
Right. And the fact that he met it with such enthusiasm and then also got into it, you know, you've got his harmonium out and all this kind of stuff. I was like, all right, man, we're friends for life. So
that's great.
So yeah, so it's a very silly piece, but it does have a deep kind of meaning behind it. And it was super fun to create. That's all I can really say.
So just with the election seemingly resolved,
yeah, right.
Do you feel like there's a chance that people are going to be able to start talking to each other again?
Wow, it's a big question. I think it's gonna take time. You know, it's gonna take time. No matter who you voted for, the truth is that the guy who is likely to step in had a certain amount of votes, and the guy who's likely to exit, you know, that you're talking about 70 million people that voted for a re-election, and that is significant, you know, for anybody who thought that was going to be like some kind of landslide victory. It's a wake-up call, and all that tells me is that we are extremely divided right now. And I do think a lot of this comes back to the whole social media algorithm thing from earlier. Right. It's the only way forward, though. People have to find a way to see each other as people and kind of agree to disagree on things and just band together. I mean, I had this hope that the pandemic issue hanging over all of us was going to be that sort of like alien invasion moment where we were all supposed to band together as humanity and
like
kind of
Mars
fight
invades.
exactly, fight the common enemy. And when we didn't do that, when we somehow managed to make that a political divide, that's when I really lost a bit of hope, I have to be honest, because I thought, like, if there's one time to pull it together, this is it. And
well, I think it shows how important leadership is. And, you know, even if you have a president who doesn't have the same basic concepts and programs that you personally prefer, if you feel like at least he has some respect and people will listen to him, then there's something going on. And I think that's what's been lacking, obviously, is that there hasn't been that. And so people have been all divided and stuff. So I think the one thing that hopefully Biden can do is at least get that mindset back to where it used to be, because
hopefully, isn't it so? You know, I mean, it was like it's very divided. It was actually kind of worrisome, you know. And I'm an immigrant, you know, in this country. You know, I'm a green card holder. You know, I'm a permanent resident. I can't even vote, you know, right now. You know, but but it worried me, how divided it was and how extreme actually it got and broken, So I hope, that this somehow will resolve actually rather quickly, So yeah.
Let the healing begin.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, right.
So you're already working on album number 3, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. We're doing, we have actually already kind of quite a few songs. On the first album, we pretty much, just, said what needed to be said, and then we kind of finished it up and started writing new songs,
Yep.
For this album, it's going to be a mixture. We both are writing new songs as we kind of, go along, but we also have like some songs that we didn't fully work out yet, that were already kind of in the pipeline. And so it is a very comforting feeling, I have to say, to knowing that we already have pretty good material together for a follow-up. So
Excellent.
it gives you, it's right, it gives you kind of a little bit of ease, and comfort, to go like, hey, cool.
Let's see. It's the middle of November now. What's 4 months from now? It's like February. Am I going to be talking?
I know we're laughing about this now. This is actually not that unrealistic.
I will say, please press more vinyl, though.
Right. That would be cool. Are you a vinyl fan? You're a vinyl freak, yeah?
I've got 10,000 LPs sitting behind me.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, just pointing that out, right? Oh my God. Yeah. Lovely.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys for talking to me. And it's such a thrill to see that this is happening and that you guys are so creative during all this stuff, because I'm sure that it's not happening everywhere like that. People are just sitting around in bed eating potato chips and drinking beer. So,
well, I'm gonna do this right after this interview as well. So.
Sounds like a plan. Excellent. All right. Have a good day, guys, and we'll.
You too.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.